Man, you won't believe the crazy stuff that went down at the grocery store today. So picture this. I'm standing in line, minding my own business, waiting to pay for my chips and soda. It's your typical Wednesday afternoon. You know, the kind where the air is hot and everyone just wants to get in and out. Now, let me set the scene for you. In front of me is this sweet old guy, probably in his 80s, with a cane and a hat that screams I've been around the block. I respect my elders, so I'm cool with waiting. Behind me is a mom with a cart full of screaming kids, and beside her is this Karen, the queen of entitlement. I swear, you could feel the negativity radiating off her. So, the old guy, let's call him Mr. Johnson, turns to Karen and politely asks her to respect the line. He's like, "Hey lady, we're all waiting here. No need to be pushy." And you won't believe what she does. She looks him dead in the eyes, smirks like she's the queen of the universe, and shoves him in the chest. Right there. I couldn't believe it. I thought, who raised this woman? Mr. Johnson stumbles back, and the whole line goes silent. I'm not one for confrontation, but seeing an old man getting pushed around, that's where I draw the line. The mom behind me gasps, and even her kids shut up for a second. That's when our hero comes into the scene. Dave, the grocery store employee. Now, Dave is this tall, lanky dude who's always chill. You can tell he doesn't want to deal with any drama, but he's the hero we didn't know we needed. Dave walks over, cool as a cucumber, and says, "Hey, is there a problem here?" Karen, of course, starts blabbering about how Mr. Johnson disrespected her and she had to defend herself. I'm rolling my eyes so hard, I'm surprised they didn't pop out of my head. But Dave, he's a genius. Instead of arguing, he just calmly says, "Okay, let's all take a step back and relax. We're not in a boxing ring here." I'm thinking, Dave, you legend. Mr. Johnson is trying to keep his cool, but you can see he's shaking. I'm ready to throw my bag of chips at Karen, but Dave gestures for everyone to calm down. He tells Karen that if she doesn't chill, he's going to have to ask her to leave. Karen, not one to be easily intimidated, rolls her eyes and crosses her arms like a toddler who didn't get their way. But Dave, man, he's got the patience of a saint. Meanwhile, the mom behind me is doing that thing where you try to comfort your kids without losing your mind. I give her a sympathetic smile like, I can't believe we're dealing with this. Dave decides to take control of the situation. He tells Karen that she needs to either wait her turn like everyone else or leave the store. I'm silently cheering for Dave because let's be real. Karen needed a reality check. But Karen? Oh no, she's not done. She goes off about how she's going to report this to corporate, get Dave fired, and sue the store for emotional distress. It's like she's reading from the entitled Karen handbook. Dave, unimpressed, tells her she's free to do whatever she wants, but right now, she's holding up the line. That's when he drops the bomb. If she doesn't make a choice in the next 30 seconds, he's calling security. You should have seen the look on Karen's face. It was like someone deflated her ego balloon. She huffs, gives us all one last glare, and decides to storm out of the store. The mom behind me whispers, "Good riddance." With Karen gone, Dave turns to Mr. Johnson, who's still looking a bit shaky. He apologizes for the inconvenience, gives the man a discount on his groceries, and even helps him pack his bags. I'm thinking, Dave, you're the real MVP. The line starts moving again, and the tension lifts. The mom behind me thanks Dave, and I give him a nod of approval. As I'm leaving, I hear one of the cashiers saying, "Man, that Dave guy deserves a raise." And you know what? I couldn't agree more. The hero we didn't know we needed, saving the day at the local grocery store. Just another Wednesday in the life of a regular shopper. In comes my GF, 21 female. She is the best thing that happened to me and has helped me constantly through my worst and have always supported me and helped me. I've been with her since the end of high school, and somehow I'm still with her, even though she is so amazing. But what happens when someone who likes to have control over everyone and everything has her son meet a GF? Insecurity and jealousy. Me and my GF have always had to take turnabout with my mom. So I would go to her house, then she would have to come to mine. However, if my mom had anxiety or felt lonely, she would ask my GF to come to mine or ask me to tell my GF. If I tried to say no, she would always go on and keep asking, bring stuff up to the point where it is just easier to say yes. Which is okay. I guess I understand she feels lonely and anxious sometimes. However, if me or my GF wanted to go to my GF's house more than once in a row, my mom would start having a go at me about it, how it's unfair, and it's supposed to her turn to come here. Me or my GF never said anything about that. We never cared that much. We just want to see each other. I mainly wanted to go to my GF's as well, since my mom constantly asks me to do stuff to help out and just springs on me to go out and get stuff for her, and my GF has to help too. However, when it came to me living between my sisters and grandpa's, things changed. I didn't want to be at any of them since my papa's place was so small and uncomfortable, and my sisters, I was only there at night and they went to bed early. So I wanted to go to hers, and obviously she wanted that too. My mom didn't like this, though. She constantly complained I would go there no matter how I tried explaining it. My mom would complain about living there every day, but if I said, well, I don't want to be here all the time since I don't like being here, she would not care since I was leaving and seeing my GF. So my mom took that as my GF forced me to run around for her to her place since my GF is rude and doesn't want to go to my grandpa's place. This led to one day after we got a new house to live at, my GF started coming over again. Me and my GF were doing our own thing and had dinner plans booked and ready. However, my mom said, I'm going to make a roast tonight if we want to eat it too, and I said, well, we have dinner booked. My mom kept trying to argue back about it even though we wanted to go out, and I said to tell my brother, who was at the shop getting the dinner, not to get too much since my mom was on the phone with him. So the night goes on and me and my GF start leaving for dinner, where my mom's, where are you going? And I say we are going out for dinner like we had planned and booked. My mom still brought everything and cooked everything for a big roast, even after I said I would be out and everything. I said I told you, so I'm still going out, so she started getting mad. My mom ends up having to go at my GF and saying how I run around for my GF for those 3 months and how I'm running to my GF for dinner. While this goes on, I try to stand up for my GF, but my mom just doesn't listen. So me and my GF just go out to dinner. My GF tells me she is uncomfortable coming to mine again, and I'm like, all good, since I don't want to be home most of the time anyway, because my anxiety and sadness. A few days later, my mom messages my GF that only talks about how she maybe shouldn't have said what she said and that my GF should come over for me. My GF responds with how she doesn't feel respected, so she still doesn't want to come over, especially since Mom didn't even apologize. This made my mom go off. She started talking to my family and some of my extended family, and they started saying mean things about my GF and insulting her in front of me, and or my mom would say to me. Apparently, my GF thinks she above everyone since she just didn't want to get disrespected. So I got so sad, obviously, about it, and when I'm emotional, I get quiet. I don't want to speak to anyone. So my mom took that personally and started yelling at me for not talking and treating her like crap. So it made me feel worse about the situation. I couldn't tell my GF she got my family all involved at first since it was heartbreaking, but I eventually told her they said stuff about her, but not exactly what. Then my mom wanted to have my GF stop carrying this crap on. So my mom messaged my GF to have a fresh start for the new year and forget everything. My GF responded with how she doesn't want to be vulnerable to be treated like that again and have my family judge her while she is there. My mom took this personally. She yelled at me about it and how I need to control my 21-year-old little girl. She kept saying how my GF's response was even rude, yet when I asked, she couldn't explain it. And we argue, and I try to say, well, why would she feel comfortable with everything everyone said? But, of course, through 3 days, or arguing, my mother didn't listen to one thing I said. On the third day, though, my mom had one of my siblings or something hack into my messenger, which is the app I message my GF the most on, and they looked through my private messages. With me approving of my GF's messages and calling her mad since I tell my GF how my mom has been treating me. I couldn't deal with it anymore. I started packing my bags and my mom started doing petty things in her anger. She came into my room for 10 seconds and I heard my keys to my car get moved when they were on top of my drawers. Later, I eventually found them under my bed somehow, and she still lied, saying she didn't touch them. Then she threatened to call the police if I took my car, since when I got it, she said it will be better in her name since it will be cheaper. So I said fine and started grabbing my stuff from the car. So she decides to lock me in the garage and I have nothing, and I'm in my PGs. So I start walking, even though it was the middle of the night, before she stopped me as I was going down New Street to come back in. She eventually calmed down and let me take my car to be safe. But she kept trying to convince me to stay, but I wasn't going to. So I left and I have been out of home for 2.5 weeks. Luckily, I get to stay at my GF's grandparents' house and they have been incredibly nice to me. I'm desperately looking for a job as I only get one shift a week and a government payment every 2 weeks. I still talk to my mom, but never has been the same since. I feel so bad for my Jeep, and my mind has been getting torn apart between everything, but it's getting better now. I feel this guilt like I betrayed my family because they all believe what my mom says, but I know my GF is just standing her ground, which I was too weak to do for so long, and so I got manipulated constantly. The industrial hum of the factory floor surrounded me as I navigated my way through the maze of regulations that governed every aspect of my work. In a town chained by rules, a state scrutinized by oversight, and a corporation enforcing a bureaucratic stronghold, I found myself at odds with the stifling structure that dictated my every move. The source of my current discontent was a bathroom, or what once resembled one. Tucked away in a corner, plagued by an odd layout and neglected by all, it became a storage room rather than a place for nature's call. With two perfectly functional bathrooms a mere 15 feet away, it seemed like an inconsequential issue. But in the realm of corporate mandates, nothing was ever as simple as it appeared. Frustration festered within me as I despised the bureaucracy that dictated my actions. I hated being told what to do, especially when it involved matters that seemed utterly trivial. Nevertheless, rules were rules, and in a world governed by paperwork and protocols, defiance could only lead to trouble. So, we decided to make the unused bathroom a storage space, putting a lock on the door to keep it secured. The town rules had no qualms. The state turned a blind eye, and even our certifications weren't jeopardized by the decision. But then came the heavy hand of corporate oversight, demanding compliance in the most absurd of situations. A mandate from the lofty heights of corporate HQ declared that storing items in a bathroom was a violation of policy. It was a reasonable enough decree, except for the fact that our designated bathroom wasn't being used for its intended purpose. It had become a glorified closet, safely locked away and untouched by human waste. Despite our attempts to reason with the powers that be, our pleas fell on deaf ears. No one seemed capable of grasping the logic that eluded them. Frustration escalated into exasperation as we faced a citation for our supposed failure. Determined to rid ourselves of this nonsensical reprimand, I took matters into my own hands. It was time to show corporate HQ just how absurd their rule was. I called upon the expertise of our plumbers and orchestrated a move that would, in my eyes, resolve the issue once and for all. A compliance letter was drafted and sent to corporate HQ, outlining our meticulous resolution to their concern. It read, "The toilet has been removed from the storage closet." Simple, straightforward, and, in my mind, a brilliant response to an unreasonable demand. As the letter made its way up the corporate hierarchy, I couldn't help but feel a sense of rebellion coursing through my veins. It was a symbolic act of defiance against a system that valued rigid adherence over practicality. The absurdity of the situation was not lost on me, and I found solace in the small victory of turning their own rule against them. In the end, the plumbing alteration was enough to appease the higher-ups. The citation was lifted, and the storage room remained untouched. It was a lesson in navigating the convoluted waters of bureaucracy, a reminder that sometimes the most effective way to fight against the system is to play by its own perplexing rules. And so, as the factory floor continued its industrial hum, I walked away with a newfound understanding that in the face of absurdity, a touch of creative defiance could be the key to breaking free from the shackles of regulation. In the glow of my late 20s, I found myself at a crossroads between the chains of a controlled past and the boundless possibilities of newfound independence. The yearning for the unbridled college experience, filled with wild parties and artistic pursuits, lingered in the recesses of my mind. Unlike my cousin, who effortlessly balanced a successful career with vibrant social events and creative endeavors, I had spent my formative years confined by the strict rules imposed by my well-meaning but overbearing parents. The decision to break free from the familial cocoon came at 25, a bold attempt to reclaim the lost years and embrace the autonomy I craved. My own apartment and a car symbolized the sweet taste of liberation, but the specter of my parents' control loomed ominously over the newfound freedom. The years that followed were, undoubtedly, the most exhilarating of my life. I reveled in the spontaneity and joy that came with forging my own path. However, my parents' grasp on my life refused to loosen. Their insatiable need to monitor my every move reached unsettling heights, as they resorted to hiring detectives to pry into the details of my private life. Discovering that my phone was not a sanctuary, but rather an open book to my parents was a gut-wrenching revelation. A night spent at a friend's house, a simple act of independence, led to a storm of reprimands. Threats of exposing my friend to their disapproval hung in the air like a dark cloud, casting shadows on the freedom I sought. The invasion extended beyond digital boundaries. My car, a symbol of my autonomy, was under constant surveillance. The knowledge that they could track my movements not only made me feel exposed, but also curtailed the spontaneity that defined my newfound existence. Removing the tracker was a plausible solution, but the fear lingered. How far would my parents go to maintain control? The question of confronting them about their invasive tactics weighed heavily on my mind. The mere suggestion of reducing our weekly visits, an attempt to carve out space for myself, had been met with fury. They professed their undying love and need for my presence, creating a web of guilt that ensnared my attempts at independence. As I navigated the delicate balance between filial duty and personal liberation, the impact on my social and romantic life became painfully evident. The stringent curfew imposed on my existence restricted my interactions to a narrow window, leaving weekends after dark and the lone day designated for family time as my only opportunities for socializing. The desire for organic connections, both romantically and socially, burned within me. The prospect of meeting someone beyond the constraints of my parents' rules seemed like an elusive dream. The battle between the desire for connection and the shackles of my parents' expectations left me feeling isolated and yearning for a life less constrained. In the depths of my frustration, a plan began to take shape. Confrontation, though daunting, seemed inevitable. The threat of reducing in-person visits, once dismissed as a mere suggestion, now emerged as a potential bargaining chip. If my parents truly yearned for my company, perhaps they would be willing to loosen their grip on my life. Armed with a newfound determination, I set out to reclaim not only the stolen years, but the autonomy that was rightfully mine. The journey ahead promised challenges, but the pursuit of a life authentically my own beckoned me forward, a beacon of light in the darkness of parental control.